Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're really diving into the UK's economy, and man, is it walking a tightrope. You've got the Bank of England making this huge call on interest rates, and at the very same time, the government is staring down a massive, massive budget hole. It's a real high-wire act, and we're going to break it all down for you.
So to really get what's happening now, we have to jump back in time a bit. Check out this quote from over a decade ago. It perfectly sets up the big theme for today, right? That direct, super powerful link between how much the government spends and the interest rates that hit every single one of us in our mortgages, our loans, you name it.
So fast forward to today. That brings us to the big question, right? Over a decade later, how is that whole relationship between government debt and interest rates actually playing out? I mean, the economy is a totally different beast now. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, first things first, the massive news that just dropped. The Bank of England's big committee, the one that sets interest rates, they just had their meeting. And look, after hike after hike after hike to fight inflation, they finally did something different. They hit the pause button.
And you know, this wasn't some easy, unanimous decision. Not at all. It came down to a single vote, a 5-4 split to hold rates steady. Think about that for a second. That razor-thin margin tells you everything. It shows just how divided the top experts are and, honestly, just how knife-edge the whole economy is right now.
So a hold on rates. What on earth are the policymakers seeing that's got them so split? Well, to really get inside their heads, we've got to look at the same data they are. So let's pop the hood on the economy and check out its vital signs.
And what we find is, well, it's a real tale of two economies. It's fascinating. On one side, you've got sectors like manufacturing and construction that are really struggling. I mean, construction activity is dropping at its fastest pace in over 5 years. Ouch. But then you look at the other side, the UK's massive services sector, and it's a completely different story. It's showing some surprising strength. Business confidence is at a 12-month high. It's like two different countries in one.
And then there's the property market. Whoa, it is also heating up. According to the Halifax index, the average house price in the UK just smashed another record, and it's getting so close to that big psychological £300,000 mark. Just incredible.
But here's the thing. It's not just about the crazy prices. Look at this. The number of homes actually being sold, subject to contract, is up over 5% so far this year. Now that's a really key sign. It suggests that people are actually moving again, that the market is starting to work a little more like it's supposed to.
Meanwhile, we've got another piece of data from the ONS, and this one shows a huge shift in what we're all buying. For the very first time, electric and hybrid cars now make up more than half, 54%, of all new car registrations. That is a gigantic change in consumer behavior. And look at diesel, it's practically a rounding error now.
Okay, so what's really interesting here is how this whole mixed bag of data, a split economy, a booming property market, totally different buying habits, how all of that feeds directly into the government's next massive headache, the budget. And the scale of this problem is, well, it's just staggering. The government is reportedly looking at a financial black hole of up to £50 billion. That's a huge number. And it's mostly because the forecasts for how much the UK economy will actually grow have been cut, which means, you guessed it, a lot less tax money coming in. So how do you even begin to plug a hole that big? I mean, this forces some incredibly tough choices. There are really no easy answers here. But according to the source material, a few major options are definitely on the table.
So, what are the big ideas being floated? Well, first up is freezing personal tax thresholds. This is kind of a stealth tax they call fiscal drag. Basically, as your pay goes up with inflation, you get pushed into higher tax brackets without the thresholds moving. That alone could rake in about £10 billion. The other big idea is this 2-up, 2-down plan. Hike the basic rate of income tax by 2p, but cut national insurance by 2p. Now, the clever bit there is that pensioners don't pay national insurance. So for them, it's a tax rise, while working people get a little bit of a break.
Okay, so here's the really crucial point. None of these budget choices happen in a vacuum, right? They create this powerful feedback loop that feeds directly back to the Bank of England and, you guessed it, their decision on whether to cut those interest rates we talked about at the beginning.
Let me break down how that works. It's cause and effect. So, say the government raises income tax. That means we all have less money in our pockets to spend. Less spending cools the economy down, helps fight inflation, and that gives the Bank of England a green light to maybe start cutting interest rates. But if they decided to raise a tax like VAT instead, that just makes everything we buy more expensive. That pushes inflation up and would basically force the bank to keep interest rates higher for even longer. See, Every single choice has a consequence for rates.
But there's more to it. These budget choices also tie into a much more subtle, long-term challenge that the source material points out, something that's been quietly brewing just under the surface of the UK economy for a while now.
And this famous quote from the legendary investor Charlie Munger just nails it. Show me the incentive, and I will show you the outcome. It's all about how these slow, steady policy changes can, over time, totally change the financial incentives for millions and millions of people.
Okay, so here's the argument laid out in the source material. You've got two things happening at once. On one hand, tax thresholds are frozen, so as wages go up to keep pace with inflation, even people on minimum wage are getting pulled into paying more tax. On the other hand, benefits are rising with inflation to keep their value. The author's analysis suggests that when you put those two trends together, year after year, the financial gap between working a low-wage job and not working is shrinking. It's creating this really subtle but incredibly powerful shift in the financial incentives right at the heart of the economy.
And that really brings us to the end of our explainer. The key takeaway here is just what an incredibly precarious tightrope UK policymakers are walking. They have to get inflation under control, they have to balance this multi-billion-pound budget, and they have to try and get the economy growing again, all while these deep-seated changes are happening underneath. It leads us all with one massive question for the future. When you're faced with all these impossible trade-offs, which path do you choose?